Have you ever wondered, what does terrain even add to a game? Or thought, terrain's rather daunting. How do I even get started? It seems so expensive. Well, today on Cutting Words, I'd like to talk about some options here on some cheap alternatives for terrain, as well as the extra depth it adds to a game and the dynamics it adds to combat. So, first things first, what I have right here in front of me is the classic battle map. I started just using this, and this is my first battle map, and it's still going strong. It was originally a Pathfinder battle map. Not that I ever played Pathfinder actually, but it just for some reason was cheaper than a D&D one, and you know it is 1 inch by 1 inch squares, so it does the job. There's certainly a lot of options out there for plain old grid mat that you can just draw on with a pen. You know, it is still gets used today for when players do something I'm not prepared for, and so I just whip this out to quickly throw something together, and off we go. And you can start with this, and it says perfectly fine. I still use mine, but when you want a little bit more, it's nice to have that just a little bit more going on. Here, let me show you. This is because when we first tried some terrain in combat. So we did this for mini games, and then eventually I came up with some terrain and I introduced it, and immediately it was a total game changer. So I want you to take these in. Look at that. Isn't your mind blown? These white plaster blocks. You can pick up molds for these blocks and various other blocks like it from Hearst Arts. I'll put a link in the description below. And also sometimes you can, there's local suppliers as well that make these, and you can just buy them pre-made up if you don't want to go the effort of molds and plaster. But it's a pretty cheap way to generate a lot of blocks. Alright. And what I did with these blocks is I stuck them together with plain old glue I had around the house. Got a test pot of grey paint from Bunnings, slapped on a couple of coats of that, then black wash, and then, before you know it, I had this. So this is a pillar of 6 of these blocks glued together and painted up. The black wash is a little bit of definition there, so it's not just plain old grey. But you can do a dry brush or other techniques would suffice. The idea was to make a lot of terrain quickly that looked alright. And cheaply. So yes, all those. We got some. So you can get some flat pieces, again just glued together, coated up 2 or 3 times, and then a black wash on top. Some walls, same story as the pillars, and even stairs. So that's what I made, and I made a lot of these. Took a while, but it was fine. It was simple enough to chip away at, and before you know it, I had quite a lot of terrain. And even though I have moved on since then to Dwarven Forge, even a gorgeous, beautiful terrain, very expensive though, especially getting it shipped over to New Zealand. This still complements this terrain. I still use this to this day. When I do big builds that take up too much space, and because you see the height is actually the same as Dwarven Forge, so actually it works out quite well for the pillars and things. So I still use a lot of this still. Right, let's get pre-build up. Something prepared earlier to really demonstrate what this terrain adds. Alright. How's that? Pretty good. Alright. So, here we are. So this is actually a reconstruction of the first encounter I ran using this terrain. Alright, so this is all modular, bits come out. This is just one little two-piece here. All this is just sitting together. Also, pro tip, wooden boards. I have a bunch of these wooden boards cut up again at Bunnings, your local hardware store, what have you, and so I can have these rooms, different terrain setups pre-built and put in another room, and then I can wheel them out depending where players go to, and nice little surprise. Now, if you're worried about putting all the effort in building a fancy room and players not going there, well, there are DM techniques around that. You know, perhaps this room was the room they go into actually looks like this now. You know, it was always meant to be like that. There are ways you can behind the scenes finagle it to so you can still get used to that terrain. Maybe the scenario is different, but you can still keep the room set up in some cases. Anyway, so let's set dress this. Alright, so in this encounter we had a wizard on a ledge, the most deadly of foes. And we had some minions. Okay. Some quagos, although I'm using gnolls here because I own a lot of gnolls. Not much quagos, but that will do. Proxying minis I have no problem with in my games. That's again a good cost saving technique. Alright. And here's some heroes coming in. Here we go. So with this scenario set up here, there are the setup creates a lot of choices, and that's what we're trying to create here with these combat setups. Create a lot of choices for players and see what they do. It's all about choices. So immediately, well, the biggest threat in the room is a wizard on a ledge. You can't just walk up to this guy. He's on a ledge. What do you do? Classic villain. My go-to when I threaten players, a wizard on a ledge. So players, if they advance through, which they can, there's still a valid option, just brute forcing things, they will be constantly bombarded by this wizard. There's a large pillar through the centre of the room, which so there's an option to have a path around and potentially cast spells or do some sneaky things away out of the line of sight from the wizard without getting counterspelled. So there's two choices to come out the stairs here, so you either that way or that way, and eventually you get along to this ledge to face this wizard. But you can't just walk straight up to the guy, which makes a whole interesting dynamic over just being playing battle map, which would be hard to do on a battle map. It's hard to show that elevation, which is really where the terrain truly shines, is that having that extra layer, that elevation on display. Alright, so there's that. The fight continues. Vanquish these mooks, these minions, and the wizard's been closed in on. But then in this fight, halfway through the fight, thinking, oh, the fight's nearly over. No, it's not. We're only halfway. Sneaking around from another entrance behind them, the players are these Drow elite warriors. Now these warriors, their minis are from, I believe, the Legend of Dritz board game, stealing bits and pieces from board games is highly recommended. A good cheap approach to getting some minis together. This door is also from the Descent board game, and that suffices nicely for a door. So yes, rating bits from board games. I'm not above doing that, and it's definitely a technique you should look into. It's a great cost saver. And these guys, being mooks, I did not paint them. I got so much waking hours to make videos and paint and whatnot. Also, look after family and all that. Priorities. But and also found just having the mooks not painted, the non-important characters not painted, just kind of helps highlight the painted ones when they do show up. Clearly, they are important. And these guys are more the run-of-the-mill. Because if everything's painted, you risk too much detail, too much everything being painted can then take away from everyone as they don't stand out and they kind of blend in a bit. Like, oh, who's that? Oh, that guy was important. Well, they look the same as much as the other people around them. Oh, okay. But with their when they're bland, you can they blend in a bit further back in priority, and this guy is fully on display as the main person here in this room. Right. The final dynamic in this encounter. So having events coming through really adds to the fight. So things change. Suddenly battlefield change. Like, it's people's effort just to get to this wizard on the ledge. Now no, my mates need me. I need to teleport back over here and deal with this now. Oh, bloody hell. Having these different elements show up in different areas of the room to draw players to different areas of this terrain. To utilize fully the terrain is another great way just to add a dynamic there, because you can find this way it's dangerous of doing big room setups is, depending on the scenario, if everyone is just here to kill this one guy, everyone will descend on this one guy and take him out or whatever, and you don't necessarily need a huge setup, because everyone's going to be just fighting this around this one guy, unless he's moving around or elements coming in to draw attention away into different aspects of the terrain. You don't necessarily need a massive setup. You don't need a lot of terrain. Like, this isn't too much here, and this room is plenty for this encounter. So even though you can see online larger setups, they're not always needed. Less can be more. Just as deal with how you use the terrain, smart ways to draw people elsewhere. So this came in here to draw people back over to the initial corridor again. And then another one dynamic event that happened was this door finally opened, and out came a Drow priestess, and with swarms of giant spiders to the poor unfortunate player that was standing right by that door at the time, and they were overwhelmed there. So yeah, that's my pitch, I guess you could say, about terrain and ways of utilizing it. And you can hopefully see from this, what terrain can do. I mean, you don't necessarily need walls. Like, if you had to prioritize what terrain to get, you don't necessarily, you could cut it right down. You can get rid of the walls and assume that the edge of the mat is the walls. You could even get rid of the floors and use the battle map. Elevation. If I had to pick one thing, build terrain of, give me lots of pillars. Pillars. I'll just take all the pillars, please. Pillars, then stairs. To help utilize the elevation. So there's definitely ways around it and do it. But having the whole setup is obviously a lot nicer when everything's fit nicely together. Nice colours and things. Well, nice grey colours. But yeah, that's terrain. Alright. So, I'll put the link to the Hearst Arts molds. There are a lot of different molds to choose from. You can get different brick styles and things like that for this. And it is a pretty cheap, effective way. And I made these a few years ago now, and they're still going strong. So the paint chips off a little bit, but there's a little bit of chipped off paint. But otherwise, it's still going strong, and I still use it to this day. So, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Every like, every subscription, every comment even does count, and I really very much appreciate that. So please keep that up, and I'll keep up the videos, and yeah, we'll grow this channel, grow these videos together. All right, thanks for watching, guys.